Krishna, dear devotees. Today we will continue our beautiful journey to the heart of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu in Puridam, in the separation of Krishna. Om Agyanati Niramdasya Gyanam Janam Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Shri Chaitanya Manubhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapatantikam. So we pray Rupa. So important this prayer to Rupa, because we will be reading from Payavali again. And it's interesting that when we address Sri Rupa and we don't mention Goswami, it means also Sri Rupa Manjari. So the verse can be seen as an address also to Sri Rupa Manjari. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Goradvishe Namo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshatari. So, we were reading Chaitanya Charitamrita, the wonderful, magical Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 2. I don't have it here, but that's not a problem, because the verse, we can recite again this verse. Shri Radhikar Chestayena Udavadarshani Ematadasha Prabhur Oyaratridini. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was constantly day and night absorbed in the same feeling that Srimati Radhika was experiencing when Uddhava came and saw her, or when she saw Uddhava. Darshan is a two-sided experience. When we come to take darshan of Krishna, we come to see Krishna, but above all we come to let Krishna see us also. So that's an exchange. Darshan is an exchange. When you come in front of someone to see that person, then that person will also see you. So there is a very personal exchange in the word darshan. So when Uddhava came, Uddhava saw Radha, and he was very, very amazed. We say in Sanskrit, chamatkar, astonished or stupefied to see the level of love of Radha. Because when he is not with Krishna, he is not feeling the same thing. He doesn't have that same level of intense separation. So then he can understand, oh, this is a level of love that I didn't know about. And no one ever told me about. I mean, Krishna told him before sending him. He told him few things, but he didn't tell him everything. Krishna wanted Uddhava to discover by himself. First-hand experience. He wanted Uddhava to be surprised. That was indeed a surprise. Maybe the biggest surprise anyone could ever have, to to obtain Radharani's darshan when she is experiencing such unlimited feeling of separation. I don't know if there can be any greater surprise in the three world and in eternity, because even Krishna is surprised by seeing such a love. When Krishna sees the love of Radharani, he is also chamatkar, completely surprised. And even though he is the all-knowing super soul in everyone's heart, but he cannot fathom Radharani's heart. So he's very stupefied every time. Every time Krishna sees Radha, he's wondering, but who is that girl? This is the mystery of Krishna, the mystery that Krishna cannot understand. He cannot understand Radharani. He cannot understand her heart. He cannot really understand her identity. So she is always a mystery for him. And that's a reason why Krishna loves her, and Krishna is so much fascinated by her, because she is a mystery. Krishna is always wondering, but who is that girl? I have never seen such a person. Is she an angel fallen from the heavenly planets? Is she... I don't know, he can make so many guesses, but he cannot grasp who is that girl. So he is very curious about this girl, and the feeling that she's carrying in her heart is mesmerizing him, and he cannot understand that. It's so beautiful, and it's a feeling of love for him, but he cannot explain it. There is no reason to that love, there is no thing that can compare to it. So Krishna is very, very curious about understanding more this girl. And that's one of the reasons why Krishna came. Shri Radhika Pranayamayama Kidrisham Vanayama. What is this unique love that dwells inside the core of Shri Radha's heart, that only her, Va Anayaiva, only her has that love. So that's really fascinating for Krishna. What is this love? So, because Rupa and Rati, they know what is this love. I don't know if they can explain it. I don't know if there is any explanation, but they know what it is, so they can share to us some drops of that love. And Padyavali is a beautiful compilation of such amazing drops of Radharani's heart and Radharani's love. So the next verse, Rupa is quoting here. I think these were some letters to Krishna by the gopis. Messages to Krishna by the gopis. Let me... yes. Letter to Krishna from Radha's gopi friend. Different letters. Actually, what happened is that when Krishna left Vrindavan, Shukadev didn't mention, but Shukadev didn't mention many things he didn't mention, because Shukadev just flew over Vraj. He's a parrot, you know. So he flew over Vraj and describes everything from above. Because if he would have really entered into all the details, he couldn't have spoken 11th canto also for Maharaj Parikshit, and 11th canto had to be spoken. It's also very, very important, and it's balancing Raja's love, and it's making us understand actually the beauty of Raja's love by explaining all the philosophy beyond Krishna also. So, because the 11th canto, it's an amazing philosophy. The next verse is a verse from Sri Shantikara. So that gopi says, we don't know which gopi said which verse, but this one said, O Mukunda, how will I describe the sufferings of this dew-eyed girl? Her sigh constantly fanned the flames of her suffering. When a beautiful lotus petal is placed on her burning breast, it first becomes dried, then shriveled, then turns to powder, and then becomes a blazing dust fire. So this is what we call intensity of love. And when we meet such love, we realize we don't have love. Na prema ganda darupi mehado. Mahaprabhu chanted this verse also in the Gambhira. I said, actually I don't have a scent of prema. I don't have a scent of love for Krishna. How will I describe the suffering of this doe-eyed girl? Even though she has such a beautiful eyes like a doe, she's suffering from a pain that cannot be described. There are no words to describe her suffering. So that girl says to Krishna, how will I describe? I would like to describe to you, but I cannot describe. Let me try. Let me just say one thing, and I don't know if it will describe properly, but it may give you an idea. Her thighs constantly fan the flames of her suffering when she's breathing. You know, fire needs oxygen, it needs air to burn. And he says every time she is breathing, that constantly fan the flames of her suffering. So it's actually increasing and nourishing the fire that's burning inside her heart. This is the fire of separation from Krishna. It's very, how to say, sad situation, heartbroken situation. She cannot do anything, Krishna is too far, she cannot even reach him. So the only thing she can do is to completely drown herself in despair. And then she said, when a beautiful lotus petal is placed on her burning breast, it first becomes dried. So quickly that petal, lotus petal, normally they're very soft and very, how to say, humid, moistened, because lotus grows in water. So normally lotus petal is something hydrating and refreshing, but when it's put on her burning breast, we would think the breast is some delicate and fragile part of a girl, and that's also where her heart is. The heart of a woman is behind her breast, though. These are two things that goes together. That's why the breast is often referred in Krishna's pastime, the breasts of the gopis, because their breast is just the place of their heart. So when a beautiful lotus petal is placed on a burning breast, so now her breast, her heart is burning, it first becomes dry. Very quickly it becomes dry, all the water is evaporated. And then it's shriveled. That means the lotus petal shrivels. And then it turns into powder. It becomes powder. Such a fire, it turns into dust. And then it becomes a blazing dust fire. That dust, after the lotus petal, after shriveling and turning into dust, catches fire. So this is what happens when we put a lotus petal on her burning breast. Maybe that can give you some idea, or Krishna, of her predicament, of her very, how to say, very difficult situation. What can we do? And this is like very, very, very painful for Radharani's girlfriend and her maidservant, who are themselves also feeling gigantic separation from Krishna. So they are in a similar state, not that because she only has that level of love, but quite similar state, because they may not have Madanaksha Mahabhav, but they have Mohanaksha Mahabhav, which is the second higher level of love in the absolute. And only few of them, Radharani's close girlfriend, have this love. So it's not a common love also. Even in Vraj, only them, only these few girlfriend, Purnama Sakis and Manjaris, they can have this Mohanaksha Mahabhav. Mohanaksha Adhirudha Mahabhav. And Radhani as Madanaksha Adhirudha Mahabhav, which is Mahabhav. Adhirudha is the Mahabhav that exists only in Vraj, because the queens of Dwaraka, they have Rudha Mahabhav. But the gopis in Vraj, they have Adhirudha Mahabhav. And then this Adhirudha Mahabhav has three levels: Modana, Mohana, and Madana. So Modana is experienced only within Radharani's yuta, or within her own group. How we called Swapaksha, her own group. And then Mohana, only her closest girlfriend have this, like Lalita Vishaka and probably Sakis. And the Manjaris also, because the Manjaris, they are connected directly with Radharani's heart. And then, but Madanaksha, only Radha has. And because there are the Manjaris, they are directly connected. There is a direct connection with Radharani's heart. They can also have some experience of Madanaksha Mahabhav through her, through Radha. So for them, they are also drowning in that suffering of separation from Krishna, but then they see Radha is suffering even more than them. And their main concern is that for them, the life of Radharani is more important than millions of their own life. So it's extremely difficult for them to see that. But they see it. So she is saying this to Krishna. Very beautiful love letter. Only Krishna can receive such a love letters. The petal turns into dust and catches fire. Can you imagine? So that situation is the situation of Mahaprabhu in the Gambhira. Same thing, Mahaprabhu in the Gambhira, if you place a lotus petal on his chest, that lotus petal, when he is in that same mood of Radha, would do the same thing. It would dry up, shrivel, turn into dust, and then catch fire. Chiradikar Chistena Udavanash. Emata Dasha Prabhu Oyaratridim. Day and night. Not only sometimes. Kaviraj Goswami says, Oyaratridine. He was day and night in that condition. So that's the 12 last years of Mahaprabhu's pastimes on earth. He was experiencing this day and night. That's what is love. Krishna is love, so he has to experience the suffering of his beloved. Otherwise, what kind of love is there? We were describing the other day, I think from Gopal Champu, that there are 3 kinds of friend. One friend is the friend with whom you play. He is a friend. And then you have the friend who understands your suffering, which is a dear friend. And then you have the friend who understands your suffering and stays with you during that suffering. That means he accepts your suffering as his own suffering, and he will go with you, along with you, through that suffering. This is very close friend. I don't remember exactly the terms, but so Krishna has to go through Radha and his suffering along with her. That's why he's becoming Gaura. He has to repay that debt of the suffering he placed them into by his living Vraj. In the same way that he said he was unable to repay their love when he left the Rasadans. The level of love and separation they manifested, he said he was not able to repay. So what to say about the love they manifested when he left for Mathura and Dwarka for so many years? Can Krishna repay that? Neither. It just began on the bank of the Yamuna, but later extended much and much more. The only way Krishna can repay that is to accompany them in that suffering. So that's what he did as Mahaprabhu. Another message by Sri Ananda, that Gopi said, because the vine of her body may violently tremble, we do not fan her, even with a single lotus petal, because she may become overwhelmed. We do not sprinkle her body with sandalwood powder and water, because she may become crushed by the great burden. We generally do not place even a flower on her breast. How may the disease of this this is India. How may the disease of this slender girl's heart become cured? So in this verse, all these verses, we see such an intensity. I'm completely sure that nobody of us has ever heard about such intensity, because it doesn't exist anywhere else. If you go into what Radharani feels when Krishna leaves Vraj, you enter into a domain that has no equivalent. This is a domain where very few people enter, But devotees, they they enter into it if they are serious. Because why? Because they want to accompany Radha in her suffering, because that's what it means to be a very dear friend. So first, if we uh, want to engage in the service of Radha, that's good. Radharani will be moved and she will consider us like a friend in one sense. But then if we feel her suffering, when she suffers, then we become a dear friend. And if we desire to accompany her all along that suffering, then we become a very dear friend. And that's how we become a very dear friend of Radha, by accepting her sorrow, her sadness, her suffering in separation as our own, and by accompanying her all along through that experience. And that's why Radhani doesn't have so many devotees who really want to become so close to her, because she's so intense. Her love is so intense. And the price to become that close to her as being counted by her, not by us, but by her, as her very dear close friend or maidservant, is that we embrace her suffering also. We embrace her suffering and we go through that along with her. So you would ask, how can we go through such an intense suffering that we are not feeling? That means we are not yet on that level. When we will feel that suffering, when we will start entering the second level of dear friend, that requires to first understand that suffering. How can we understand that suffering? Well, like everything, Jnanam Vijnanam. We can obtain knowledge by hearing about something, and then you obtain theoretical knowledge. But then if you want any knowledge to become Vijnanam, you have to live it. You have to live by that knowledge. So that means you have to feel the suffering of Radhani. And how do we feel? By hearing more and more, because that's the first way to express that we are concerned. If I tell you your good friend is having this problem and you tell me, oh, that's okay, I don't want to hear about that, that means that you're not really a good friend. If you're a good friend, you would be concerned and say, oh, tell me everything. I want to know everything. Because you want to know what your beloved friend is going through. That's a good friend. That means you understand. And then you think about the suffering of your friend and it pains you. And if it's not, if when we hear about the feelings of Radha, Mahaprabhu or Krishna, it's not paining us, that means we have to hear more. And we have to change our heart to consider more that we should be more concerned by their suffering. So we hear more and we want to know more and we feel concerned. If my very dear friend is having some problem, I want to hear everything. I want to know, oh, what problem? Because I have to find out how can I help him. So I have to understand the entire problem. So we listen and then we meditate upon our friend's suffering in order to be able, if I want to understand my friend and to accompany or help that friend in that suffering, then I have to feel that suffering. And in order to feel it, what brings us to from Gyan to Begyan is a meditation. Meditation on something. And the best meditation is accompanied by the holy name. As Jiva Goswami explained, every spiritual process in Kali Yuga has to be accompanied by the holy name. So while chanting the holy name, either in japa or kirtan, we meditate upon, the suffering of Radha. And then we may have some glimpses of what is that suffering, even if it is one drop. This is good. That means even if one drop we can feel, that means we're entering into the second phase of becoming different to Radha, because she understands we're concerned about her. She may be lying on that lotus petal bed and not reciprocating with us, but she understands very much who is caring for her. That she understands. Nobody can cheat her. She feels. She is the personified feeling potency also. So she feels things like nobody feels. So she can feel when we feel her suffering. And then she realized, oh, this person really loves me because this person is willing to understand my suffering. Even though it may not be possible, that's another thing. We don't care, it's impossible. Whatever is possible, we want to feel, because we want either to help her or to accompany her. If we cannot help her, then if she is going to go through that pain, then let us go along with her into that pain. If we are not able to save Radharani from drowning, then we're going to drown ourselves too. That's what is love. And that's how we become very close to Radharani. So by feeling and then by accompanying her. So we have to listen such verses and we have to meditate upon them. Then our heart will become very, very, very beautiful. Do you remember the verse? Because the vine of her body may violently tremble, we do not fan her, even with a single lotus petal, because she had become so slim, so slender. They're thinking if we fan her with a lotus petal, even with one lotus petal, which is maybe that big, if we fan her with one lotus petal, her body will violently tremble, because her body has become like a straw. So, how do we say that? So fragile. So they don't even dare to fan her with a single lotus petal. In the same way, they don't dare to sprinkle her body with sandalwood powder and water, because that may be overwhelming for her. She has become too fragile, too delicate. And because she may become crushed by the great burden, we generally do not place even a flower on her breast. They're feeling that if we put a flower on her chest, that may crush her under the weight of the flower. Can you understand how how weak, how fragile Radharani has become? Very, 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 very delicate situation. So this is also Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu is experiencing that same fragility. In Gita Govinda, Jayadev Goswami describes also the fragility of pure love. Yeah, he describes that even the moon rays feel like burning her body or Krishna's body by the power of the love, because their body, when emotion becomes that unlimited, then the body becomes the embodiment of the emotion. So it's a very intense love. And I invite you to read these verses of Stavavali, or what we mentioned the other days about Gopal Champu, Garga Samhita, to read them again and again through your life, and you will see how, if you progress, you will see if you become moved. Shukadev Goswami is so close to Radha that he couldn't even speak her name, otherwise he would just melt into tears and would not be able to finish the Bhagavatam. So we have to feel, and the more we read these verses, are such verses that just by reading them we become immediately purified, and we become very much we become very much elevated in our devotion. Normally, hearing such verses should change our life forever. After reading such a verse, it should not ever be possible to live like before. Which, for this I am sorry. I'm sorry for this, my dear devotees, but if you really listening these verses as we should listen them, that means your life should never become back like before. Otherwise, that means you've not heard them. So then I invite you to come and hear them more regularly, because it's such an intense situation that should be, how do we say this? That should be life-changing experience, transforming experience that you could never forget for any moment of your life, and that will completely remodel your life. Yes, I am quite sure that even, I would say, even myself, even those who, like me, knew already these verses and had already read them, when we come back and we read them again, we see it's so more unlimited than what we remembered about them. So it should be life-changing every time. And that's how we become purified and we progress through the level of Nishtaruchi, Shakti and Bhava. These verses, they have the power to raise us to the level of Bhava. Yes. Then an author unknown says, again one more message to Krishna. Radha is again and again attacked by the sharpened arrows of Cupid. If she may live in the protection of her thunderbolt heart, that will be very good for her. So that's how we call this? Little bit sarcastic verse, because she's saying to Krishna, when we say thunderbolt heart, means extremely hard heart. Radhan is again and again attacked by the sharpened arrows of Cupid. Here it's Cupid love in separation. That love she feels in separation from you is like sharpened arrows piercing her heart again and again, like Arjuna shooting arrows on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. He can shoot I don't know how many hundreds of arrows every second, like this. And now this is Cupid in the form of separation, shooting and piercing Radhani's heart with these arrows of separation, of love. That's what she suffers. But if she could live in the protection of your very hard heart, it will be very good for her, because if she could be inside your very hard heart, the arrows of Cupid could not enter into your heart. That's what she's saying to Krishna. because no arrows of Cupid entered into your heart, because it means you have no no love, because your heart is so hard, you have no love. So if she would be able to enter into that heart, into your heart, she would be protected from any arrow of love. And it also would be very good if she could enter your heart. You see the multiple meaning of that verse? It's incredible poetry. No mundane poetry can reach such a level of emotion and intensity. This is the poetry we have to learn, and I would say these are the verses we should learn instead of learning verses from Bhagavad Gita. I mean, verses from Bhagavad Gita are very nice, but this is another as nice, but on a higher level of beauty, because these are the fully unpacked verse of the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna knows all of this when he tells the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna on the battlefield. He knows. He already has received all these letters. But these are very beautiful verses to meditate upon. If you take these verses and want to feel them and chant your japa by meditating on these verses, I can tell you, your chanting will become another experience. It will become a real chanting. Yes, this is how we enter into what we call Shuddhana. This is pure chanting. If you can think about such things when we're chanting, then it becomes pure chanting, because the purity of the chanting depends on what we think about when we're chanting. If we're thinking about something else, that's inattentive chanting, and it means offensive chanting. If we trying to focus ourselves to think about Krishna, and it becomes non-offensive, but still abhas, because we're still not really able to think really properly on Krishna, because our mind still has a tendency to go towards so many other things. But at least because we do that strong effort, very sincere effort, we try to chant with all our heart, then it becomes Namabhas. And it's very beautiful, because sincerity is always very beautiful. But then if we really are thinking about Krishna deeply, with such a meaning when we chant, it becomes Shuddhana. They are blooming, cut them with fingernails. It's blowing, stop it with the edge of your sari. They are now entering the pastime forest. Frighten them away with the tinkling of your bracelets. This is quite mysterious. O handsome Krishna, afflicted by separation from you, Radha's friend spoke about the blooming flowers, pleasant southern breeze, and cooing cuckoos in this way. So we have to rephrase it in the proper, putting things together. So Radha and his friend, they speak about the blooming flowers by saying, they are blooming, cut them with your fingernails. And then they speak about the pleasant southern breeze. It's blowing, stop it with the edge of your sari. And about the cuckoos, cooing cuckoos, they are entering the pastime forest. Frighten them away with the tinkling of your bracelet. So they are opposing to these things. They're chasing away the cuckoos from entering into the pastime forest. They're stopping the pleasant breeze, pleasant southern breeze with their sari. And they're cutting with their fingernails the blooming flowers. Probably because these three things, blooming flowers, pleasant southern breeze, and cooing cuckoos, are udipine for remembering Krishna and increasing love. So they are very dangerous for Radhani. Very, very dangerous. If she would see blooming flowers, then that will awaken. In Gita Govinda, Jayadev Goswami explains very much how all blossoming flowers, they are Cupid's arrows that piercing the heart of forlorn lovers or lovers who are alone or abandoned. When they see these beautiful flowers, it pierces their heart because flowers are not normally something that stimulate love. And then when your love is broken, when your heart is broken, if you see these things, then it becomes painful. So to see blooming flower would be very painful and dangerous for Radhani. To be touched by the pleasant southern breeze would be also dangerous. It would enhance her love for Krishna too much. Maybe she would not survive to that, as well as hearing the cooing cuckoos. So they say, no, don't let this flower bloom. Don't let this pleasant southern breeze come. Don't and chase away these cuckoos. We have to protect her. This is a verse by Sri Shambhu. I think this is the way we have to understand it. Such a love, what can we say? I was checking how many more verses. We have many verses, but that's many nectar. Even though these classes will be endless, what to do? Krishna's feelings and pastimes are endless. If we want to dive in them, there is no way out. And we see, I'm not spending so much time on each of them. We could go further and further. We're trying to grasp, to be touched at least by some initial emotion, and we should take it as something we have to go back to while chanting to try to understand. Otherwise, how can we say we understand Mahaprabhu? Otherwise, how can we say we care about what Mahaprabhu feels? If you know this is what he's feeling, then if you care, you will have to study about that. Otherwise, that means you don't really care about what Mahaprabhu is feeling. You don't really care about what Radharani is feeling. So how can you pretend? How can you pretend to become her maidservant? Can you pretend to become her dear friend? You can't. It goes together, you know. We cannot say things that don't match what we think, because they're useless. So we have to change our thinking and feeling, not our words. What we say doesn't have much importance. Bhakti is about the heart. So it's the heart that has to change. One more verse. One evening, one of the gopis fainted, and then a second one. And gradually, all the gopis fainted. Oh, handsome Krishna. Krishna is super beautiful. Oh, handsome Krishna. One gopi tried to write a love letter to you, but she became overwhelmed and was unable to complete the first word, Svasti, which means greetings. She was not able. That's a verse by Sri Satchipati. So she probably just wrote Sva And then she became so overwhelmed that she could not write "see." She just wrote "swa." That's real love. Real love means it invokes feelings, and these feelings they are checking them to proceed. This is paralyzing. Prema is a paralyzing experience that paralyzes us with unlimited bliss, unlimited love, and then because it's too much to contain. This is like if the entire Atlantic Ocean would be poured into your heart uh, all at once. What would remain of you? Nothing. You would just be paralyzed under the power of the flow. Even with ordinary water, it would paralyze us. But when it is about prema, which is pure nectar, which is already paralyzing, then you become paralyzed. So she could not write greetings. She just wrote greet. And then she became paralyzed by pure love, by such an intense flow of love, she couldn't proceed. One gopi fainted, another gopi fainted, and gradually all the gopi fainted, paralyzed by the love they have for you, paralyzed by your love, paralyzed by that despair that is hitting them from inside, that will they ever be able to see you again? That question is burning them alive. And then the next verses says, when she meditated on you in order to draw your picture, Kamadev drew his bow. When her two fingers moved to grasp the paintbrush, Kamadev placed an arrow on the bowstring. When she began to draw, Kamadev shot an arrow. She was severely wounded. O Keshava, she fainted, and for a long time she was motionless, as a painted picture. This is a verse by Sri Bana. All these beautiful Rasika Vaishnavas who are writing such verses, that means they have understood Radharani's heart, otherwise they couldn't write such verses. That means they have understood Radharani's heart, and they have understood it, and they can explain it also, they can express it, so they are feeling it also. So this is how we have to become. We should be able to compose such verses also about Radharani's pain in separation. Then we could say that we are connected to Radharani's heart. This is Radharani trying to paint a picture of Krishna. When she meditated, she meditated upon the idea of you, meditated upon you. In order to draw a picture, before drawing the picture, you have to visualize what you want to draw. And just by doing this, Kamadev saw, and then he drew his bow. Kamadev took his bow in his hand. And when her two fingers moved to grasp the paintbrush, Kamadev placed an arrow and aimed at her. And then, when she began to draw, when she made the first line, Kamadev shot an arrow. And she was severely wounded. That means, because Kamadev is invisible, she was meditating on Krishna, and then love for Krishna started to raise, and she took the brush. That the intensity of that love increased. And then when she started to draw one first line. That first line where she started to draw Krishna was like an arrow that pierced her heart. And then directly she felt so severely wounded that she collapsed and fainted and remained motionless for a long time. Chiram. Chiram is very long time because this is what we say, Anarpita Charim Chiram, Karuna Vatirnam. Karuna Vatirna Kalo, Anarpita Charim Chirat. So it's the same word for a long time. Chirat, Chiram. Very, very, very long time. So we will stop here for today. And we still have much more beautiful verses like this to continue. This awakens in me the idea that I should come back to these verses and meditate upon them. I cannot just say it and not do it. I also have to do it, otherwise I am I am not sincere in my approach. If I have to speak about this, then I have to also live it. Otherwise, what I am trying to share for my own purification will not be very effective. So I think from tomorrow, if Krishna reminds me in the morning when I will wake up, I try to open these verses. And I am a person who likes to do small things. By small accumulation, day by day, we develop beautiful things, rather than trying to do big things and not being able to maintain them. But if I say that at least I could read one of these verses every day, in order to really try to come closer to understanding Radharani's and Mahaprabhu's heart, that would be already a very good first step, a very good mood. And maybe by doing that, then I will be moved and either meditate for a long time on that verse by the mercy of the Holy Name, if she allows me, or be able to be inspired to move on to another verse. Although I have already a very structured sadhana and chanting, but we can always find some more space, some more little time when we can add this. And my experience in chanting, when we generally put a new little verse or new little meditation in the form of a drop that we start to put every day, then normally by the mercy of the Holy Name it develops and it becomes something very sublime, very beautiful. And if we are adding this, which is the ultimate experience of Radharani's separation from Krishna, compiled by Sri Rupa, now I understand why Rupa compiled these verses. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale. I understand in this book Padyavali, Rupa is giving us some meditations that we should meditate upon. It's not just a book to read through, it's a book because if he or if she did it like that, giving one verse, who are separated, that means even though they are written one after another and they have some kind of thematic or chronology, or they're grouped with some kind of understanding. Still, it's more like compilation, which you cannot really read in a flow like this. That's why I was commenting on each of them. It would be too much superficial. Such things, you have to read them and think about them deeply. So I'm quite sure with such verses, chanting and meditating upon such verses will bring something very sublime in my life, and I'm willing to do it. I invite you to do the same, because I know by previous experience what such kind of decision, this is a good vow to take. It's much better vow than fasting or doing this or that. This is a good vow to take some jewels, very special jewels of the most beautiful reality that Rupa Goswami is giving us, to take them and include them in our daily life. So I invite you to do the same. Of course, you're never obliged. You may think it's too much intense, you may think so many things, but one day, when we're not able to do something, we should at least, it's okay if we're not able to do something and we say, no, I'm not able to do that now. It's okay, but we should at least think, I wish that one day I will be able. And if we wish that one day we will be able, then one day we will be able for sure. If we don't wish that one day we will be able, then there is much less chance than that one day we will be able. What will enable us one day is the desire that one day we will be able. Because this desire will start to shape our heart with the desire of coming back to this and trying that experience later. And as the time passes, one day we will come to it and we will see the beauty of that reality. Yes. This is how it works, but we have to keep desire to do it, or try to do it from now on. This is my humble present to you. Ei Nivedana Taro, I am presenting you that proposal, request. Please try and you will see. I am 100% confident in the sublime nature of Rupa's presence, and I know what they can do, and I know that they are doing the most beautiful thing, and they can thus take us by the hand and make us enter into the most sublime reality of Prema. I am sure about that. Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.